Many beginner photographers make simple mistakes and forget the important things. So today I'm going to share with you the do's and don'ts of photography. Hopefully by the end of the video you'll understand what to do and what definitely not to do. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button to see more content like this. Do learn about composition. The first photography concept you should learn and understand is composition. Composition includes leading lines, foreground elements, and frames. Photographers use leading lines to direct the viewer's eyes towards the main subject. This could be a flower, person, or mountain. Once you have mastered leading lines, your photos will naturally become better. With framing, it can be much more difficult. Finding a frame and then timing the photo perfectly can be a hard task, but becomes easier with practice. Finally, the easiest of all compositions is foreground elements. These include anything from trees to bushes to mountains. Composition is a difficult thing to learn in the beginning, but becomes easier with practice. Don't stick with just your basic lens. If you really want your photography skill to improve, buy a couple of different lenses for your camera. This allows you to experiment with different focal lengths. Personally, I like having a 16 to 55mm and a 50 to 250mm, but it all depends on the type of photography you do. A kit lens allows you to get your basic shots, but if you want to step up your game, try buying a telephoto lens. This can help you narrow down what's in your frame and help you improve greatly. If you have the money, try investing in a couple different lenses as it improves your photos. Do learn what each setting does for your camera. Each photo you take consists of 3 different settings. These include aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Learning what shutter speed to use in different situations can have an impact on your photos. For example, if you're photographing a bird, you'll need to have a shutter speed of 1/500 or higher. This ensures that your photo stays crisp in the final product. Aperture is the most difficult setting to learn, as each number of aperture has a different effect on your photo. For example, if you want to focus on one element in your photo, you need a low aperture like f2.4. Aperture also controls the blurriness of your background. The lower the aperture, the blurrier the background, and vice versa for higher apertures. Once you master the settings of your camera, you'll see massive improvement. Don't use auto mode all the time. One of the biggest mistakes beginner photographers make is using auto mode all the time and never learning how manual works. It is okay to use auto mode when first starting out, but after a while you should understand the basic settings and know how to properly expose your image. If you can't fully understand how each setting works, try using the priorities mode, which helps you focus on one setting at a time. As a beginner photographer, I used auto mode 24/7, but after a couple of months, I wanted to learn how to use manual and create my own settings for my images. With a bit of help from YouTube tutorials, I was able to understand the settings of my camera. So if you're new to photography and are still using auto mode, try learning manual mode or using the priorities. Do experiment with different types of photography. Experimenting with different types of photography allows for a whole new interpretation of your photos. Certain types of photography will have you focus on one thing, whereas another type of photography will have you focus on something else. Put this all together and you can really up your photo game. There are many types of photography. These include landscape, wildlife, wedding, portrait, toy, and product. For example, portrait photography and wedding photography will have you focus on focal length and subjects, whereas landscape photography will have you focus on composition and angles. When first starting out in photography, experimenting with different types of photography allows you to find the one you like best. For me, I started off with flowers, toys, and landscapes, but now I focus on wildlife, street, and landscapes. Although it takes a while to find the one you like best, it's very helpful in the future as you grow as a photographer. I highly recommend trying out different types of photography. If it turns out you're terrible at that type of photography, at least you know. Don't leave your photos unedited. Some photographers decide to leave their photos unedited. To me, I see many problems here. First off, no one, not even the best photographers, can capture a perfect image with the right exposure and color settings. It is nearly impossible. If you can't afford editing software, I get it, but there are still free options, so there's no excuse. Second problem I see is, why don't you want to add your own personal touch to your image? Everyone has their own go-to settings for a photo, whether that's moody, orange and teal tones, or warm and bright. Not editing your photos is like doing your homework, but not handing it in. Like, what was the point? Do invest in camera gear and editing apps. One of the top things I recommend doing when first starting photography is to invest in camera gear and editing softwares. Although it seems expensive, it can help you learn it more and improve your photography. As a beginner photographer, I invest in some cleaners, tripods, and editing softwares. Some of the gear I recommend getting are lens cloths, a lens pen, tripods, and Adobe softwares like Lightroom and Photoshop. With the purchase of these items, they can protect your camera and help you improve your overall skills. Investing early on in your photography journey can help you with spending money on other items in the future. Don't only shoot during the day. Another mistake I see photographers make is shooting only during the day and never at night or during a sunset. I understand you might not know how to properly expose your image, but it all comes with practice. The beauty of photography at night and during sunsets is the awesome glows you get from it. With sunsets come the gorgeous orange and yellow glows, and at night comes the awesome blue tones. Ask any photographer, 95% of them would say that their favorite time to take photos would be the golden hour. The golden hour is essentially the time before and after a sunset. As a beginner, you might be scared to photograph nights and sunsets, but I assure you once you master it, you won't miss another sunset. If you're worried about not knowing how to photograph at night, just try it out sometimes. I know you won't regret it. Do clean your lenses and other gear. If you want your gear to last a longer amount of time, try buying some cleaners. Cleaning your camera gear is crucial to help maintain it and keep it working at its best. Some cleaners I recommend are lens wipes, a lens pen, and an air blower. You can get all these for around $35, but it's worth it as it helps you spend less money in the future. You don't need to clean your lens every time you go out, just every so often. If you go in the forest or somewhere dirty, I would recommend cleaning your gear to remove the dirt and dust you might have picked up. For long-lasting camera gear, clean it every so often. Don't shoot JPEG. The biggest mistake photographers can make is shooting in JPEG. We've all done it at least once, whether on accident or on purpose. Shooting RAW is much better than JPEG as you can cover more portions of your image with this type of file. Most of the time, new photographers shoot JPEG because they don't know how to switch from JPEG to RAW. If your photo is too overexposed or underexposed, with a RAW file, it is much easier to bring up the shadows and decrease the highlights without ruining your photo. But with a JPEG, your photo is basically toast. The most important rule in photography is to never shoot in JPEG. Those are some of the do's and don'ts of photography. If you learned something new today, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.